Welcome to episode 135 of The Endless Stream. I am Aidan, and this week I am joined by Dublin comedian Madeleine Munford. We discuss her comedy history, her path through improv and comedy, and her choice of film this week, which was Some Like It Hot, the Billy Wilder classic starring Jack Lemmon, Tony Curtis, Marilyn Monroe, and directed by Billy Wilder. I might have said that a moment ago. It should be said throughout this episode, I start talking a hell of a lot of shit about film history that I don't really know, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. If you like what you hear, please consider subscribing to the podcast, heading over to Spotify, heading over to iTunes, rating, reviewing, liking, subscribing. All of those good things really help us out. On top of that, you can head over to Instagram at The Endless Cast, where we put up art and clips to go with each episode, and that's a great place to shoot us a message. Tell us what you think of the movie, disagree with us, suggest something for us to watch in the future. That's a great place to reach out. Or you can send us an email at theendlesscast@gmail.com. All of that being said, let's jump into the episode. All right, I'll record also. You join us in mid-conversation about me complaining about the animation industry. I will give you a proper intro in the intro. We record that separately.
Oh, okay.
I am here with Madeleine Munford complaining about my first job.
Yeah, I actually, when I lived in Paris, I met this woman who was working for Pixar, and she was an animation person, and she was actually the voice of in Monsters Inc., like the announcer over the like in the factory, you know, like,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I forget the names of the monsters now, so I can't really do the voice, but like, you know, when it's like, I don't know, someone named Stuart, or it's just like, Stuart, come to the blah blah, and then, or like, emergency, factory, blah, blah, blah. Like, that was her, because sometimes they would just use their animators. She was like one of the top animators there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they just, like, so much of it is done on storyboards. Like, even in anything else animation-wise, you're doing rough storyboards, and you use whoever's around. And if it works, it works. And if we need to cast somebody that we have to pay a fortune, then they cast someone they have to pay a fortune. But if they can get away with whoever for a while.
Yeah, cast
they do
me.
their best too.
Is the moral of the story. Cast me.
That's it.
For any
Yeah,
projects.
Like, the greatest animator success story of all time has to be Seth MacFarlane.
Really? Is he even an animator? I thought he was just like actor, writer.
He was as far as I know, he was an animator, and I don't know what scheme, what pitch, what thing happened that allowed him to put forward Family Guy as a concept.
Yeah.
But, you know, he pitched it and they bought it. And you can go back and look at, like, I don't know if it was like TMZ or Letterman or something back in like the early 2000s. And they're like, so you just sold a cartoon for $1 million, huh? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of a dream come true. Damn. And then hosting the Oscars, like, it's a weird
but I mean
journey.
Yeah, that must have been crazy, because he didn't exactly sell it off. Like, he sold the idea, but then got rights to be in charge of it and be in it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of unheard of for someone who's nobody at the beginning, I'd say.
Yeah. I've never checked his Nepo baby status. Is he somebody's grandson?
I don't know, but my mom's last name is McFarland, so I feel like he's related to me, but it's with a D, right, not an E. Like, so, yeah, I was this close. I'm also that closely related to Mumford and Sons, where it's like one letter is off, you know? Yeah. Like one letter from
Can't make a case
fame.
For, like, knocking up on their door and saying, you got any spare money lying around? Got any?
Yeah, am I your Nepo baby? I'll be your Nepo adopted child. There should be Nepo adopted children.
Yeah, it'd be great. Well, actually,
I mean, there probably are, but
kind of Madonna and Angelina Jolie.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, but I meant just
pitch.
like, oh, we look alike, and I want to be part of this, so adopt me. Yeah. But yeah, anyway.
I'm pretty sure we connect our gene pool somewhere along the lines.
Yeah, probably everyone can. It's kind of a weird concept. So,
anyway. Thank you for joining us today on the Endless Stream. We're starting to do our, like, I guess, seasonal episodes. We're trying to record, like, things that we would watch at Christmas and stuff. And ordinarily we dig into, like, I don't know, nerd news and film news and trailers and TV shows and anything else going on while we're sort of warming up towards the main topic. But today our guest is a stand-up comedian who I know very little about, so I'm going to just ask you a whole bunch of questions and see where the conversation comes off of that.
Oh, okay.
And then
Cool.
we can jump into the movie end of things. Are you comfortable with that, or is that a bit of a
No, I'm
too
comfortable
much of a
with that.
surprise?
I'm
Yeah?
comfortable with
Okay.
that. I'm also,
Okay.
I'm a
We're
little
interviewing
curious
a local
though.
celebrity.
I'm a little curious though, because you're like, oh, we look at trailers and stuff. So I'm like, ooh.
Well, it's more like, okay, like that's as good a question as any. Like, are you a big film, TV, media person?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like, are you chasing trailers around the internet, or are you just always watching things? Like,
I'm not sure that I'm chasing trailers. I wish that I was more of like knowing what's in cinema currently all the time. Like I recently, and I'm 26. I've solo traveled before. I've eaten at restaurants alone before, but somehow I got to 26 years old without taking myself to the cinema alone. And then the other week I like went to the cinema by myself and I watched Saltburn, and it was just a magnificent experience. Plus it was a great movie, which I know you haven't seen yet, but it was just
I
so
haven't seen it, no.
good. And like I think there's something about growing up in the States as well, like when like we're just obsessed with Hollywood and actors. Like for me at least, like movie stars were like gods to me, so it's like, you know, you'd worship that instead of like religion or something. And it's so pop culture is like a big thing. And like I think I had a really good film education growing up because my parents really like films. So yeah, and I want to be an actor. So yeah, I think films are kind of my life actually, like films and TV.
that's amazing. That's great.
Yeah.
Like, is there a film growing up that like I know we're going to talk about some like it hot, but is there anything else on the list that's like, I watch this all the time, or I couldn't take my eyes off? Like, who's the celebrity god in the movie that like it was always, I loved whenever this person was in a movie, I loved it? Or
I mean, I think so. I don't have like a favorite movie. It's like for each mood and each time period, there's a favorite movie, if that makes sense. And I'll rewatch those
100%.
movies. And so it's like Some Like It Hot, which we're going to discuss today, and then It's a Wonderful Life, which is like what I would watch every Christmas Eve with my family. And like Love Actually a lot of Christmas movies. 500 Days of Summer, which I feel like was the first romance kind of film that I watched as a kid, and I was like, oh, this is real. This is based off real life. This is what it's gonna actually be like. Which kind of messed me up, not gonna lie. I think I kind of
has it been like that?
Yeah. I'd say it has every time. Like, I think I find a lot of truth in fiction. And so growing up watching a lot of films, I might have taken a lot of things a little bit literally. You know, instead of like studying textbooks and whatever. Like I was sort of making sense of the world through art, through film. So yeah, I don't know, not to sound pretentious, but yeah.
I'm happy enough to do that here. Like, no, but we've had illustrators and artists and, you know, actors and stuff on, and it's like, yeah, whatever. Like, you can be pretentious on the endless stream. There's a wide range of content covered. Love Actually, I saw a stupid amount of times in the cinema when it came out.
Really?
I'm quite a soppy dork. That and I want to make the excuse that is like, I would buy the cheap ticket to this film and then go and see something that was after when the ticket price went up.
Oh.
But I would buy like a €3 ticket to Sweet Home Alabama, watch that movie, and then when it was over, I would walk into something that was on at like 7:00 with the more expensive ticket.
Yeah.
Which means I saw Sweet Home Alabama like 4 or 5 times.
Oh my god. That's the one with Reese Witherspoon, right? I'm not sure that I love that movie. You know,
I'm not sure that it is good. I was having a mental breakdown in secondary school, I think.
Oh, but I mean, that's such an American thing to do as well, is like, you know, buying a ticket and then just going to as many movies as you can for free afterwards. Just because famously, like, the people in US cinemas when I was growing up just weren't paying attention. But yeah.
Yeah, they're usually really young and disinterested.
Yeah.
You know, they're just getting paid doing simple cinema job, right?
Yeah.
Am I being reductive?
No. I think that's right. And like, not to bring it to a dark level, but I think the reason I'm not too into like what's in cinema at the moment, like I'm so glad we have streaming and stuff, is because in the States, like cinemas started having like shootouts when I was in like high school. So I kind of stopped going because, but like a big part of my childhood though was going to the cinema.
So how long have you been, like you said, solo travel? How long have you been, when did you leave the States, I guess is the question.
When I was 20, I went to live in Paris for like 6 months, and then I went back to Austin, Texas to finish my degree. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do after. Like I studied advertising and French. So I was like, I'll just go be a French person. And I moved back to Paris and I stayed there for like a good 3 years. And then COVID kind of happened in that last year, and I was applying for jobs and other opportunities. And like the role that came back to me was a job in Dublin. And so I've been here for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
So yeah, I probably left the States like for real in like 2019 or something. Okay. That might not be right. I don't know, 2018.
2018. Were you doing comedy in college, like in the States at all, or is that a late?
No, it's like I started doing that in Dublin about 1.5 years ago. And I started doing it because I started taking acting classes again. Like the real dream has always been acting, but I always kind of come back to it because I don't know, I think with the thing you really want, you're always like, I don't know if I'm actually good enough for this. I'm too scared to really go for it. So then you kind of do a lot of random things that you fall in love with because there's no pressure on it. So it's like stand-up and improv is kind of like that for me. Like I did improv in Paris. I did improv in like Austin. And then improv led me back into the confidence to do acting. And then I did stand up on a whim because Saturday Night Live is like my favorite thing ever, and all of them started as stand-ups, or most of them.
Where was your first stand-up like performance?
Performance was Workman's, and it was through like a showcase that we had for like a stand-up class that I did. And that was like a little friends and family kind of thing for like the people in the class, because I took it at the Gaiety School. And then actual first gig was Hey Penny.
Hey Penny.
Yeah.
Okay. And like that's a fun gig. So was it the, it's not the Box anymore, is it? Is it the Box? It was called the Lucky Duck or something before that.
Oh, maybe.
So it's like it would have been the same time as I was starting doing the Hey Penny as well, where the sort of open micers are the last thing of the evening.
Yeah.
We do a little competition. Yeah,
I think Joe Dolan was my MC that night, I believe. And I'm not sure that it was Box Comedy when I was doing it, just because they knew that I was new. So I think I was just sort of put on to be given a chance, and then they signed me up for the Box Comedy, which I did like, I think I performed twice in that. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah. And you've been enjoying it ever since then, because like you've, again, I mean, I know this, but for the listener, like you did the full run in Edinburgh, right?
Yeah, I did 4 weeks of Edinburgh Fringe. I did a split show with comedian Robbie Wilde, and also did spots. So like Eddie Malarkey and Brian Gallagher have a show there as well, like a compilation show, and I actually can't remember what it's called. The Irish comedy or something, and they had me on a few times. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I don't know, it was really cool.
So what's your then what was like, I guess Edinburgh, like did you have a worst, I mean, I guess overall in 1.5 years, what's the worst experience? Just to go negative, was there a bad show?
Like as in like worst experience on stage basically?
Yeah. I'm going to ask you about the positive one as well, though.
Okay. I think, because to be honest, I haven't really like had an experience where Because basically, before every time I go on stage, I get stage fright pretty bad, and I also just have anxiety in general. So I was at a gig once, and this is positive, but like this is why I probably do bomb, but I never really notice that I'm bombing. And this is why, is because I was at a gig once, and in the audience, it was at Slats Laughs. So this is actually my best experience. I'm going to answer first because it explains why I don't really have a lot of negative. But so basically, I was at Slats Laughs, which is Brian Gallagher's show, every Sunday. Okay. And it was my first time doing Brian's show. I had just met him and Eddie Malarkey in Edinburgh. That wasn't this August. That was last August. And I was just there kind of to see what the Fringe was like. And so Brian booked me. And right before I went on stage, it was like in the audience, it was Eddie Malarkey, Damo Clark, David McSavage, and Brian Gallagher all watching me. And I don't know if you know how much pressure that kind of is. Just because I do. Yeah, like, I don't know. I just really didn't want to do badly in front of them. And I was getting so panicky right before going on that I was like looking at chairs and being like, that's a chair, that's a table, that's a bar, you know, like trying to recenter myself.
Just ground yourself.
Yeah, because I was having like a panic attack. And my friend Hannah was there to like just watch my show. And I told her, I was like, I'm really, really nervous right now. And she goes, why do you start doing comedy? Like, why did you start doing this? And that was like the best advice ever, because I was watching Brian MC right before he was going to announce me on. And he was just having so much fun. Like he's a seasoned pro, you know, so he's not there trying to impress anyone. He's not thinking, oh, the comedians think that's really funny, or, oh, that wasn't very good. He's legitimately laughing and having fun with the audience. And Hannah told this to me, and I was like, yeah, why did I start comedy? I didn't start comedy to impress 4 strangers who I have the utmost respect for, and I work with them and I love them and they're great. But like, I didn't start comedy to impress anyone, and at the time they were strangers, and I did it to genuinely enjoy myself. So I went up there and I fucking enjoyed the hell out of myself. I was supposed to do 5 minutes, I think 5 to 7 minutes. And Brian didn't know me, so he was like, no pressure. If you want to get off at 5, you can leave the stage. It's all good. And he let me go until like 8.5 minutes because me and the audience were having such a great time. And like Mick Savage went on and said how good it was. And so now when I go on stage, if people aren't really getting me, I'll kind of find a way to enjoy myself anyway. So like worst experience might have been at Hey Penny, where there was a table of like middle-aged men, and I had a joke that was like, I don't know, the MC had been making a joke that they were a table of like undercover guards the whole night. And then I had like a joke about the guards, and I was like, this is dedicated to you. And they just were giving me the hairy eyeball all night. But I didn't even bomb. It's like my friends were there, they were laughing, and I should have just focused on them, but I was kind of focused on this table. And then afterwards, the people that mattered were like, that was great. But I was like, I was just looking at these people frowning at me the whole time. But you just have to focus on like enjoying yourself. You know?
That is a great piece of advice. That's great. It is. It genuinely is. Like I think that like in the sort of 2 years I've been doing stand-up, like I the worst show, and I didn't even feel that bad about it. I was just like, what the fuck is with this room? Was I did like an open mic at Second City there a few months back.
That's cool.
Because they're generally an improv place, but they were running an open mic in this bar in the building. And it was just, I was just doing my thing, and I've done it in plenty of places and got plenty of reasonable responses. I don't by any means go, hey, everyone was laughing their whole off, like I by no means think I'm amazing, but I was just doing my thing, and it's like, y'all are not happy to be here. How many of you are students? You're all just going through notebooks. The MC keeps talking about the strike that the teachers are having with the corporate owners of Second City, and that's like bringing everyone down between acts. And I was just like, what the fuck is going on? I still see that person's like tweets occasionally, the MC of that night, and it's just like 180 days without any sort of mediation between. It's like, Yeah, that's the energy you brought to an open mic that night.
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of energy sometimes. I don't know, with open mics, like the open mics where the audience is mostly comedians. You know, I feel like it's really easy for it to get into that energy of like people who really love to hear themselves talk, you know? And then they don't really care if no one's really on their level or like, you know, on their vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you so like I asked for some like questions for a comedian, and I know someone else who's doing comedy, and she was like, all right, how personal and real do you get in your comedy?
Completely personal and true. It's actually kind of scary because all my jokes are based on truth.
Okay.
So it's almost like a little bit of a diary entry, but the thing is like, if I tell a joke that I wrote a year ago, I'm not necessarily feeling that way now, but it was true at the time.
Okay.
But that's kind of the only way I know how to be. And they're all kind of centered around me as the character. And I kind of want to venture away from that in a way, just because I have, what's the word? I always lose this word. Where like, imposter syndrome or something, where it's like my kind of comedy isn't valid. Like I'd rather do observational comedy where it's like, hey, did you see that over there? You know, and it has nothing to do with the comedian. I'm always like, that's a real comedian. But then I've also gotten this far in my journey with comedy doing it based on me being the character anyway, so it's probably fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's like what is like, who are your comedy icons then? Like if you look at somebody and think, God, I wish I was like this person. Is it like are they joke guys, or are they, you know, personal like story guys or folks, you know?
I think they are actually quite personal. Like I might get canceled for this, but I do love Dave Chappelle's comedy throughout his career, and like,
you're not getting canceled on this podcast.
the comedy, not the values or whatever. And
yeah, everybody's got he's got a huge body of work, whether or not he's wandered into shitty territory in the last few years. There's a reason he got as big an audience as he did, you know?
Yeah. And I like David Spade, pretty much anyone who's been on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
Yeah, and like Judd Apatow, which he's a storyteller. Whitney Cummings, storyteller. Nikki Glaser, Eliza, forgetting her last name.
Schlesinger.
Oh my God, Taylor Tomlinson, storyteller.
Can't get enough of Taylor Tomlinson.
I love her. Also,
I took her last special. Like, this is the most. I guess I'm bringing animation mindset to it, but I timed the laughs.
Did you?
I was like, I went through it and I just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, laugh, 6, 7, 8, and it was like you get like it really is just like little laugh, little laugh, little laugh, big laugh.
Yeah.
Little laugh, little laugh, little laugh, big laugh.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like technically great. Like, she knows where her big punchline is, and she's written everything to lead up to it to make sure that you've got little lily pads of laughter along the way to the big punch. It's great.
Yeah. No, she's amazing. She's amazing. And like Chris Rock, I don't know. I feel like all of them are actually like, and I do love Pete Davidson as well. And I could probably just keep naming people, but I think 100% of the people I've just named are all pretty much personal story people. Yeah. You know? Like,
I tried to listen to, like, I like Jimmy Carr, but like an hour of sort of 2-line jokes at a certain point can get tiring.
Yeah, like
Mark Normand as well. I just watched his thing, and I'd never watched much of him, but it's just like, they're cool. They're like Rodney Dangerfield jokes, you know, like,
yeah,
you know, my wife is leaving me. I said, is there somebody else? He said, there must be, you know, like, they're great lines, but it's like, it's an hour.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. That's so true.
It's not necessarily for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to think as
so
well.
If your stuff is all personal stuff, like, how do you feel about like family and friends and partners seeing it, or do you talk about those people, or is it mostly you, the character?
Oh my God, I actually, in Edinburgh, so my parents haven't seen my stand-up, and I won't send them videos because I'm like, no, it's inappropriate. I've like told them like snippets of jokes that are kind of filtered, because my comedy for the last year and a half has been kind of focused on almost like clever sex jokes and like dating jokes and but it's not, it's like punching up, as in I make myself the problem in every scenario.
Right.
So I'm not like talking trash about anyone. So I wouldn't mind if like I'm single, so like a potential partner or whatever, if like someone sees it, I don't feel like they're going to be uncomfortable or judge it or whatever. But in Edinburgh, I stayed with second cousins. So I stayed with family. And they were like, you can stay with us, but we have to be able to come to your show. And so it's my grandma's brother's children. So like second cousins, who, you know, I think with your second cousins type relationship with that kind of family, it's like they didn't necessarily know you when you were growing up. Like they didn't raise you or whatever, so they have an idea of you possibly, and you want to upkeep that idea maybe. And then maybe this is just my family, like very kind of image based, like not in a bad way, but just that's just kind of how it is. And so they came to my show, and I guess I didn't believe that they would. And so when they did, right before,
were you up first or was Robbie? Did you alternate that?
I actually can't remember. I think we alternated at that point, because it was like we at first did 25 minutes each, and then we were told by Richie Sheehy, that who's another great comedian, told us for a split show it's actually better if you do like 10 and 10 and 15 and 15, to kind of like just between the two of you.
Break yourselves up a bit.
Yeah, break it up a bit. So like 10 minutes of crowd work, 10 minutes of, you know, material, whatever, that kind of thing. So I forgot how we did it, but I basically went up there, and 10 minutes before the show, I was like, look, this is going to be inappropriate, but it's not like super personal to me right now. You know, like I'm going to be talking about some stuff that's going to make me sound like a horrible person, but I swear to you, it's not necessarily like, it's just my dark humor. You know, it's my self-deprecating dark humor. It's not necessarily like I'm not a cruel person. And maybe I'm being too hard on myself. It's just, I think, I don't know. I think dating is a little bit difficult in our generation. So it could always come off badly or triggering for people. But I don't know. Triggering is a harsh word. But so they were like, no, like, it's fine. It's art. We've signed up for this. And they were sitting there. Their eyes were super wide. And I had a joke right before getting into really inappropriate things where I was like, okay, like, everyone acknowledge my family over there. They're VIP. Let's clap for them. Like, they came to the show. They're awesome. And then I was like, just like, I'm doing these jokes. I hope that you become really, really, really proud of the fact that you didn't raise me.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. So I like separated myself from them feeling responsible for like, you know, because I think my family, people in my family can be kind of scandalized, but they were actually great. They were great. They weren't judgmental about it. I think my aunt said something like, oh, I was thinking of blah blah, who was probably turning around in their grave, but, you know, like, watch it. Like, I was like, oh, like, great auntie blah blah is watching. And I was like, I don't even know who great auntie blah blah is. It's fine. Like,
I don't think anyone could say anything that scandalizes me. Like, I will watch any comedy going and, like, love it. If it's funny, if it's well written, it's whatever. When it comes to talking about stuff, I'm pretty uptight, and it's like, hey, let's talk about movies. I haven't got everybody's consent that was involved in this story to tell it on. You know, I just get really uptight and protective. So like all my stuff is like goofy shit and wordplay rather than being particularly personal. So that's me. I'm still, I don't know, working on that. I don't know if I need to.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to. It's like whatever you are comfortable with, and if you, because like comedy is an art, so however you want to express yourself and feel empowered in doing so, if you feel uncomfortable, then what's the point, you know? Do
you ever feel, I guess, where's your line in like pumping up a story? Like, do you just tell it exactly as it happened, or like I heard a comedian say that like when I tell a story, I want you to feel how I felt in that moment, not necessarily have the accurate facts. I'm trying to get you to that feeling. So I'll say whatever I need to get you there.
That's interesting though, because like if I'm telling you a story, it's not necessarily factual. It's always going to be how I felt in that moment, because that's the only way I can tell you about it. So that's kind of like inception-y to me, that like I love that that person said that. That's really cool. I'd say so. I mean,
you're not hung up on the facts as long as you get the feeling across.
Oh yeah, there's no facts in my comedy at all, you know. I don't know. And also a lot of
there wasn't really a brawl in the street by the canal and you didn't call the guards?
So there was a brawl on the street and I called the guards, and but she didn't say who's winning. I think even though I do feel like it was based on truth, though, because she was a bit like, I was literally a week into living in Dublin, and I was like, how do you call the cops? Like, what's the number? And I looked up how to call the cops in Ireland, because I was like, it can't be 999. That's British, you know? We're not in England. Yeah. So I looked it up, and it was like, you know, +353, something like an 8-digit number, and I phoned it through Safari. And then called her, and it was like emergency services, all this, tons of options, and I couldn't understand her Irish accent because I was so new. So I was like, cops? Like, what the hell? And she was like, Garda. It's the Garda. So this was just like a phone call that was so not correctly placed that by the time I reached a police officer, a guard, the brawl was over. So I literally was like, they've stopped fighting. And she was like, okay, well, I mean, you know, call us back if it happens again. Like, you were right to call. So they didn't make me feel stupid. But I felt so stupid that it was like, well, you know, it's the equivalent of someone being like, who's winning, you know?
Yeah. So I guess there were facts. You just heightened them to...
Yeah. Because not everything's like... funny in the moment. A lot of my jokes are really not funny in the moment, and then the way I get over it or work through it is like I'll find it funny later, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
Like my first 5 minutes was about a really, really bad breakup, where like I was living with the guy and everything. And it's like, when we broke up, that wasn't funny at all. It was horrible. And it was like really like hard mental health wise, hard everything wise. And like, I just, you make light of it in a way, because I just sort of realized like, oh, I'm packing all my stuff. I'm moving. I'm in Ireland. What the hell? This is ridiculous. Like, just everything, the way this person's speaking to me, this is the way I'm feeling about this. This is ridiculous. This is I think that's just the way my brain copes with things, is I make it funny later on. And I was listening to David Spade's podcast with, I forget his name, but I love him. He was in Wayne's World. What's his name? Carney. Wait, David Carney?
Dana Carvey.
Dana Carvey, yeah. I was listening to their podcast and just laughing and like packing my stuff. And I was, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Have you a comedy dream? What are you aiming at? You want to do an hour? Play the O2 or the 3 or Vicar Street? Where are we aiming? Madison Square Garden?
Oh, I don't know. I want to do 45 minutes at Edinburgh this next August, like solo show, I'd say. Okay. I think that's a goal of mine. And then, honestly, I think comedy-wise, it's like I wasn't planning on doing stand-up. I'm happy that it's happening because it gives me autonomy over like my writing, character development, meeting people who make a living being talent in different shows and different industries that are part of the entertainment industry. And so I still want to go for acting, but in a way where it's like I write a TV show and I star in it, and it's like comedic based, but also I do like drama. Like, I like Ricky Gervais's kind of humor in the serious, like in real life, where you make things funny, but kind of like what I said, where it's like in the moment it wasn't funny at all, but like it's just so tragic that you find something funny in it.
So do you think, I know that people pursuing comedy in Ireland, it's ultimately London? The UK?
I mean,
what do you think?
Like, I'm half English and my dad's from London, or he's from Colchester. Okay. So I've always wanted to like live in London for a bit of time, but honestly, that had nothing to do with like comedy or acting. So I'm thinking of moving there. and I'll still like pursue everything I'm pursuing, but I don't want to say that like it's...
You're doing it because of comedy. You're just doing it because you...
Yeah, because I want to be able to call my dad and be like, oh, I just walked through Piccadilly Circus, blah, 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 blah. But, like, I really want Ireland to, like... I don't want it to be, like, a brain drain of all the creatives have to go to London to make it work. You know what I mean? Like, we need to build something here. And I'm still kind of passionate about that, even if I do go to London for a bit. Like, this is the first place that feels like home.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, like for better or for worse, you know? Because, like, it's not always, like, super happy. Like,
home is where the trauma is.
I don't know. It's a great group of people that I've met here. And, like, it is really just a great place to live. And it's really inspiring. And I don't want to abandon it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to you guys' podcast, probably an old episode. It was... but Robbie was complaining that there wasn't a comedy cellar style hang happening every time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like, I mean, maybe y'all aren't hanging out as much as I perceive, but like the comedy scene in Dublin is, you know, it's Crackdown, it's Stitches, it's Sinead. Like there's X amount of rooms and everybody's in those bars every night of the week to some degree. Like, you want to go hang out with comedians, they're there, go hang, you know?
Yeah, I think like that was the Mike Sable episode, and I know what you're talking about. I can't remember exactly what Robbie's point was at that time, but I do know that like in Edinburgh we hung out with a bunch of comedians like 24/7, and which again, for better or for worse. And then also we're constantly, I mean, I can't speak for him, but like I'm constantly at the Crackdown, like helping with flyering and like seeing shows, meeting comedians, and then doing spots at other places. And like you do become kind of like you have a separate relationship. Like I think you've got your day job, your personal life, and then with the comedians, like there is this tight-knit kind of special relationship that you have with the other comics. So we do have a community. It's just maybe he was trying to say like it doesn't feel like the Comedy Store or something where you can just hang and like, you know, Whitney Cummings will walk in.
The Laughter Lounge isn't the hub it could be.
Oh yeah. I've
like a permanent fixed purpose-built building.
Yeah, I've never been to Laughter Lounge, and
I've never been. I don't know anyone.
Yeah, like I know.
Do you know people performing there?
I actually do. So I think Eddie Malarkey recently performed there. Eddie McQueen performs there regularly. Brian Gallagher. But I'm just not on their level yet at all, you know? So if I went over there to hang out, the people who run the Laughter Lounge would be like, what are you doing here? Like, do you want to get a ticket? As they should, you know, because I'm working up from the bottom.
I guess I'm displaying how little I know about the scene at the same time as much as I'm involved to a degree. Like, you know who runs Hysteria, you know who runs Sinead, you know who runs Crackdown, and maybe you do. I don't know who runs the Laughter Lounge. Is it comedians, or is it like a corporate, or is it like a business pursuit? Like who owns that place? I
mean, I know people who MC there. I'm not actually sure who owns it, because I do think I don't think I've met them, so I'm not quite sure, and it's embarrassing because maybe
who's the Mitzi Shore over there?
Yeah, like maybe I have met them at something and I didn't realize that they owned the Laughter Lounge. So I'm not really sure. I don't even know if I can like speak to that, because specifically Laughter Lounge is like the one that I don't really know, but like yeah.
I guess that's what I'm getting at. Like, is that like it seems like there's a very specific there's a whole Dublin comedy scene, and then there's this thing that is like a purpose-built space that's been there for years. But it just feels like this sort of island on its own. It's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you feel like we've covered comedy enough?
I mean, I do. Yeah. Did I answer everything to the?
Perfect. It was great. It's a very fun conversation.
Okay. Perfect.
So you came to us with Some Like It Hot. So is this a Christmas movie for you?
I mean, not really. I would kind of be able to watch this year round. It's definitely a favorite movie of mine. But yeah, I mean, have you've seen it before?
I have, yeah. I do feel like, for me, like, so I love Christmas movies and the Christmas movie season is great. And I also have this like idea that I've made it something in my head that it never was. Like when I was growing up, like say in the 90s as a little kid, it was like the movies from 30 years ago were on, and they were all really old, like classic and Technicolor and musicals and stuff, or maybe 40, 50 years ago. But like these were the things that they were playing. And now as an adult, the movies from 20 years ago on, and they're like Transformers and Harry Potter. And I'm like, oh, these are garbage. Where's all that like classic cinema that's supposed to be on at Christmas?
Yeah.
So I do think about Some Like It Hot as being on around the Christmas season when they're showing like old Jimmy Stewart and Fred Astaire and like all of the classic Hollywood movies. I really do think that like, I mean, I understand that they've bought the licensing rights for the film that year or whatever, and they've got as many screenings of it as they want, so they throw on Jurassic World. But like, I always think there's this great opportunity to just program a day's worth of films for 2 weeks that are like, you know, here's some Audrey Hepburn, here's some Cary Grant, here's some stuff that you do not see year round while we're pushing popcorn movies from the box office down your throat.
Yeah, that's so true. I do kind of love this era of like American films as well, with like Audrey Hepburn, Katharine Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe, like where they have, and Cary Grant, like where they have those really classic American film Hollywood accents, where it's like that's not necessarily from a place, it's just Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Tony Curtis, like, I mean, we're jumping way into the movie, but by the time he's talking to Marilyn with that like spoof on Cary Grant in the Mid-Atlantic thing, it's such a funny voice. Yeah,
I wish I had that accent. It's kind of, it's just so classic. It's just like, oh yes.
It's, well, you know the story behind that, right?
I actually don't. Is it like there were kind of British actors trying to sound American or something like that?
It's, well, okay, I'm gonna mess up the specifics of it, but it is purely a Hollywood kind of creation, or like a like early 20th century thing as broadcasting's coming about, and like in the same way that the UK developed the received pronunciation, where everything got very posh and very like articulate, and you had to, like, everyone on TV had to speak very clearly, and so they tried to like drive like regional American accents out of actors and arrive at this, like, that's where you get the Mid-Atlantic, or there's a I just heard, like, there's an Australian guy pushing it as like world English.
Oh, okay.
Where it was trying to like soften all of the regionalness out of it, but keep like really clear articulation. So you end up with, you know, Katharine Hepburn's very, very odd delivery. And it's a phenomenon. It's like, I don't know, is it like when everybody started for shizzle, like everybody picked on a thing for a while and just spoke like that, and like early 2000s, you know, street culture working its way into white movies.
You're making me want to look up like interviews with them separate from films to know what they actually sound like, because now I'm like wondering, like, what does Katharine Hepburn actually sound like? You know, because I'm sure
she actually sounded like that, but
really?
It's just I would wager she drove her regional accent. I mean, like Patrick Stewart is Yorkshire, I think. Like, he's very regional, working class guy, but by the time he went to the Royal Shakespeare Company and everything else, he just had to soften all of that out and speak the Queen's English in a whole new way. Like, they just drive that stuff out of people.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Where are you from specifically?
So I'm from Manhattan.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because it's like, I'll just say...
Is yours a Manhattan accent, or have you just been in Europe a long time and it's...
I think I've always had a weird accent, like a mixed... Like, it's definitely American, but since my dad's English, there's always been that influence as well on, like, certain words.
Okay.
And then I speak French fluently, so that might also kind of mess things around as well. Because also, when you live in, like, a country where the people don't fully understand English, like, I would speak English more clearly and a little slower so that they could understand me. Or if I was speaking French with them, you know, it's just a completely different string of sounds. So, yeah, different intonation as well.
I've pivoted way off.
Oh, sorry.
To where you're from specifically. No, that's my fault. I was just like, I got lost in accent talk for a second, and then went, I also didn't ask you specifically where you're from. I know you've spent like Austin for a bit.
Oh yeah, Austin for like 10 years.
So, Some Like It Hot.
Yes.
When two male musicians witness a mob hit, they flee the state disguised as women in an all-female band. However, it does not end their difficulties, and further complications set in. Marilyn Monroe, Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, Joey Brown, George Raft, a whole bunch of people. Mm-hmm. It is a classic. It's directed by Billy Wilder. We talked about a Billy Wilder film recently called Ace in the Hole. Do you love the movie, or have you watched a bunch of Billy Wilder films even, or like would you know?
I'm like,
any of
I
those?
love the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Billy Wilder's like along with like Frank Capra, he's like produced like some of the best Americana
Really?
like films of the 20th century, and like he worked with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau a bunch.
I love Jack Lemmon.
He's
a genius.
He's amazing.
He's a genius.
He absolutely is. He's the perfect. I just like animators fixate on.
Really?
Because
oh my god, I can actually see that because his face is just.
His face is doing so much stuff. He like.
Yeah.
There's a moment in the movie where he gets in the elevator with Joey Brown. Like, I don't know when the last time you watched it is. I just watched it last night.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about though.
Where he gets in and Joey puts a hand on him as the door closes, and he just just a moment where his eyes meet the camera.
Yeah, it's perfect.
He's always been this brilliant collection of like really physical comedy and just mugging. Like his expressions are just perfect, which is also an observation I had of Taylor Tomlinson. Her lines are great, her act outs are great, and when she just does stuff with her face, it's great as well.
Yeah,
like it's great performance.
Yeah. I think there's something there as well that like your audience, you have to assume that your audience is smart, even if your audience isn't, because that's like really good acting or really good comedy if you can kind of trust that the audience is going to get what you're saying, so you don't have to connect all the dots for them. So like Jack Lemmon making a face and having you project onto it, or Taylor Tomlinson taking a pause and like, you know, taking a beat to make that face, and you just put it together and it kind of just clicks faster than if she was to explain something or, you know, be on the nose about it.
So I'm going to shut up about, because I'll keep talking and I'll hit you with like trivia.
Oh, but I love
like,
trivia.
Tell me what you love about this movie.
So I love Marilyn Monroe in it. I love Tony Curtis. I love Jack Lemmon. So I love those three. Like the trio of them is brilliant. I watched it when I was a really little kid, and it was one of those things where my dad was like, "Okay, we're gonna expand your film education today," and it was like a favorite movie. Like, okay, I'm gonna let you in on this like brilliant movie, and I honestly kind of think of it as like a Valentine's Day film. Like, I watch it whenever, but I think of it almost Valentine's Day-esque. Valentine's Day-esque. Yeah. Because of the massacre that happens in the beginning. It reminds me of like the Chicago like Valentine's Day massacre. And like, you know, I've seen this movie a ton of times, but I think the first time I watched it, that's like the impression I carry with me a bit, where I was just like, oh my god, it's so funny. They're dressed up as women, and they're not very subtle ever, and they're not like good at acting like women. They're it's just so funny. It's just so funny.
I sent a voice note chatting with mates yesterday. Like I love you get it in your head that the past was this like distant time where people were, you know, all wearing suits and were serious and stayed and whatever. And it's funny when you watch a movie like this and you realize that, like, okay, the language is a little different and they're using different euphemisms, and it might seem a little like nudge nudge wink wink rather than like as hangover and broad as it could be, but they're still just like dirty sex and drink jokes, and it's still just like we're in a nightclub getting like they hit on all the dancing girls, and like it's just as bawdy as like anything else going on today. You forget these people were people, and they're just being like, I don't know how old they were at that point. How old was Jack Lemmon in this movie?
I'm not sure. Should I look that up?
It's hard to, like, she says at one point that she's like 25 or something.
I doubt it. I feel like she was older, but I can look this up because I'm really curious.
Yeah, 1959. I'm going to look up Jack Lemmon if you look up Marilyn.
Okay. How old was Marilyn? But also, I feel like people were more sophisticated back then, so she could have been 25 and just looked like she was a true adult, like 35 or something.
So Lemon was 34.
I love how it's not just giving me the answer, and I've literally... Oh, okay, perfect. Marilyn Monroe was 31.
Yeah, so, like, I don't know, I guess... I do lose sight of, like, how old people were in these things, because... I don't know, you just, like... There's a movie called High Noon, and... Lloyd Bridges, Jeff Bridges' dad, is in it.
Oh!
And I had only ever seen him in, like, the Hot Shots movies, and he's clearly nearly 80 in those films. He's just this wrinkled mess. And then I see High Noon, and it's like, I still see an old man, you know, but it's a black and white, and they keep calling him Kid, and he's the young upstart cowboy.
Yeah. I
I
also love how in Some Like It Hot, with the mob that they kind of have, like the gangster character, the guy who plays the gangster character, I'm pretty sure was like a real, like, involved with like new gangsters in real life or something like that. And like,
okay.
Yeah, I don't know, like what's his name?
Spats. Yeah.
I don't know.
There's like the one of his henchmen with the big old face on him, like a real heavy, hey, that's my machine gun.
Yeah.
Like Harry Hill,
yes,
I think his name was.
yeah.
Harry Wilson. Yeah. He's such a face, and I feel like there's like Warner Brothers cartoons from that era where they're just drawing that guy for every time they need a gangster.
Yeah.
Like, these are just, I don't know, I love I guess I underestimate people in the past. Like that car chase at the start when there's like two police on either side hanging on the runner boards of that car, and they spin that fucker. Like, they skid and spin that with a driver and 4 people hanging off the edges, and this car is spinning. Yeah. And you're just like, holy God, health and safety is not even a concern at this point.
Yeah, they must have done what Tom Cruise did, where it's like, you know, how can I do this thing safely? And the guy is like, you can't. And he's like, okay, I need a new safety guy. Instead of just like, you know, oh, okay, that's not safe, I won't do it.
Have you a favorite moment in the movie?
Yes, I think the bathtub.
Or is there a moment you like? Favorites is always the worst question. But
I mean, I think it's like so I have like 3. I love every moment. It's kind of like, I love when they're on the train and they're meeting each other for the first time, and Marilyn's in like the little bathroom of the train, and the 2 men are really attracted to her, but they're like acting like women, and so they can't just openly kind of flirt with her. They're like, I play saxophone, and she's like, oh, I would throw myself at a saxophone guy, like, too bad you're not a man, blah blah blah. And it's just so funny, kind of the comedic tension of watching these 2 men fawn over her and be like, wait, but I am, but I'm not, but and then and that kind of just starts the whole tension, and also between the 2 friends like going after her a bit. And then I love, you know, when it's Spatz's birthday and that whole scene. I don't want to spoil it because it is kind of the scene.
It's 1959.
I guess, but people need to watch it, you know, like where they're kind of hiding and everything. And like, and I do love, so the yacht scene where like Tony Curtis has taken it way too far with this lie. He's said that he owns a yacht. And he's like got her on this yacht, and Jack Lemmon they're just trying to sabotage each other the whole time. And there's a bathtub scene as well where it's like basically Tony Curtis is hitting on Marilyn Monroe on the beach as the man, and then Jack Lemmon is dressed in his woman character, and he's like, oh, Marilyn, like, we need to, like, sugar, we need to go, like this other character wants you, and it's the female version of Tony, so he has to jump into the bath before they get in. And I think that's my favorite part of the entire movie, just because the tension of like, is he gonna make it, and then he stands up in his suit because it's a bubble bath, and so you can't, you think like, you know, that he's kind of got it all together, and then he stands up and he's like, I hate you, I'm gonna kill you. Like, I don't know, it's just such a joyful, there's so many joyful moments.
There's so many, like, the moment they see Marilyn Monroe and they're like, it's like Jello on springs. Like the language or the lines are so funny. At one point, the first time he suggests dressing up with a woman, he goes, he's got an empty stomach and it's gone to his head. It's like, what a way of saying, like, that. What a stupid idea.
Yeah.
I just like the train scene where everybody starts crowding into that bunk, like they're trying to like keep a low profile.
Oh, I love that scene as well. Like they're all kind of drinking and partying and like hiding and like isn't Jack
mixing cocktails in the hot water bottles?
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. And they're kind of sleeping at first, so they're kind of not in their disguises. And like these women are coming into their bunks and they're like, no, like this is, get out of here, get out, get out, get out. They're like trying to be with Marilyn like alone.
Yeah, and it's they end up with like 10 people squeezed into that little bunk.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It would have been so fun to film, you know?
I mean, for Jack.
Wait, why? Wait, is there trivia that I don't know about?
No, there's no trivia. It's just one dude under 9 women.
Oh, no. I meant the film in total.
Oh, okay.
in its entirety.
You said scene specifically. The film, of course, like there's moments in that where like, I was thinking about it. Like that train scene reminded me very much of the Marx Brothers. I don't know if you've watched many Marx Brothers movies.
What's an example of one?
They've a movie called A Night at the Opera.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
And the 3 of them have stowed aboard a liner to go to New York. Mm-hmm. I think it's New York, to like they've pretended they're opera singers and they're like stowed across on this boat and they're hiding in the tiniest little cabin. And then slowly more and more people start hiding in the cabin, but no one can know they're all there. And you end up with 12 people and somebody outside trying to take like a breakfast order. And the breakfast order keeps getting larger and larger and larger. No explanation. And like, it's just such a funny overcrowding scene. So it reminded me of that a lot.
I need to watch that.
Like, I loved the Marx Brothers movies growing up. My dad had them on VHS and we would watch them. Mm-hmm. And you watch them now and they're a little stayed. What they would do is like they were like from that vaudeville era, going to theaters and like performing, and they would go and do these things, or they would screen their movies and they would time how long people were laughing for.
Really?
And then they would perform the scene in front of a camera and pause because they know it takes 10 seconds for the laughter to die down.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it just means now if you're watching at home on your own, there are these just like kind of like lulls for a moment.
Oh, that's weird.
Like, ooh, that's a little.
Oh, that's really weird.
Like not all of their stuff, but their earliest stuff anyway.
Yeah, I kind of love that. I don't look up enough like film trivia, but it's kind of the most interesting trivia that there is in my mind, just because hearing like that's real like film history of just like, you know, that's why those lines are so separate and they don't do that anymore.
And it's well, I mean, I don't know that they ever should have. They're learning as they're going, you know, like it's when it's new technology. Like I saw a screening. I'm so sorry. I'm just doing all this fucking talking, and I brought you on to talk about.
Not at all.
But I went to see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and they showed it in the lighthouse. And I'm sitting there, and there's an exchange in that movie that I've seen a dozen times on television, where like they both, Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, find out that they've been sleeping with the same woman, or they have both slept with the same woman, and he goes, you know, how did you know she was a Nazi? She talks in her sleep.
Oh,
what? She's old enough to be your daughter. I'm as game as the next man. I was the next man. And it's this little exchange, but it's kind of too labored, and I always think it like goes on a bit long. And then I saw it in a cinema with a full audience, and everyone laughed so much that it was perfect.
Yeah,
everyone laughed just enough for there to be a lull and for the line to come back and for there to be a lull in the next line. And I was like, oh, that works perfectly in a theater.
Oh, that's interesting.
Not as much on your own.
I actually didn't really think about that, because that's a bit like stand-up comedy sets where like you have such little amount of time, like 5 to 10 minutes or something, so each thing you say is sort of like you learn as you go to try to get laughs for each thing and give a pause or have a like oh, I need to know what this is. No, like when you have a punchline and then you have a tag, like to have little tags off a punchline. So that's interesting to have like a 2-hour movie where it's kind of the same. It's like you have this amount of time, and and each line is so important because you have such a finite amount of lines for those moments.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And knowing that, like, I mean, like, bringing it back to stand-up, when you're doing your first sets and you've written 5 minutes worth of material and you just blow through all of it without pausing because you got to get all the words out, and you're not even leaving room for laughs. You're just like, I got to get all the words out and then go.
That's honestly still me now, I think, because like when people laugh, again, it might be imposter syndrome because I'm not like expecting people to laugh, and then when they laugh, it's like, okay, great, they got that one. But then if they're laughing a little too long, I'm like, okay, you guys, like, I'm saying the next thing now, so shut up. So I often like cut off the laughing because I'm saying the next line. But people who are way more experienced,
revel in it. Just sit back and revel.
People who are more experienced than me, they definitely like revel, like not revel in it, but they won't interrupt themselves. They'll like wait for people to stop laughing. Whereas I'll kind of be like, okay, I have this amount of time and I have like the booker's eyes on me with the flashlight in the back. Like I gotta say what I gotta say, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I also like, I love watching Tony Curtis because he looks like Jamie Lee Curtis, or she looks like him. She's his daughter.
Does he? I knew that.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, until you said it, I had forgotten.
They look exactly the same, and it was
Janet Leigh was the mother.
Yeah, which I actually didn't realize. She was in Psycho, wasn't she? Yeah, I never put that together, actually. I thought she just had him as like a famous dad, like he's like the movie star.
She did a photo shoot, like recreating that Psycho set, you know, like in the shower with a curtain or something. I think she did something like that years back as well.
I think I saw that, but I just never put it together that was her mom. I'm a genius.
So you see Jamie Lee and Tony.
Yeah, I think they look really similar.
I gotta go back and look at it again.
Yeah,
look at him again. He's very funny. Like that character he's playing, that posh guy, is the Shell Oil guy.
Yeah,
is
brilliant.
Really good.
Would you describe him as like a dry sense of humor just because he's like the serious one, and then Jack Lemmon is a bit more of the like physical kind of out there comedy of that? Or like, do you think they're both? Because I don't really know like the different descriptions, but I do like Tony Curtis's.
It's kind of hard, isn't it?
Yeah, like he's like the straight guy.
Yeah, he's not quite like the straight man. He's got a lot of laughs in there as well.
Oh yeah, but like straight as in like he doesn't go outlandish for a laugh. He's kind of like, you know, he's lying about the Shell Oil thing to Marilyn, and you just find places to laugh because it's just so ridiculous, but it's not really him. Whereas I think Jack Lemmon just like would bend over backwards for a laugh in a way. Oh.
And he did, as he was dipped during the dance scene. Yeah. That dance sequence is the, like, going from them making out in the yacht to, like, that whip pan back to the dance floor. Yeah. And back to the yacht. It's such a funny piece of filmmaking. It's so funny. Like, Edgar Wright and, like, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz is, like, one of the only guys that you see doing, like, that sort of, like, whip pan these days. And it feels, like, modern and fresh. And then when you see Billy Wilder in 1959 was doing it. You know? Yeah,
you gotta learn from somewhere, though, I'm sure.
100%. Yeah. So does it work out well for old Tony and Jack? We don't want to give spoilers for the movie. But yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't know.
I don't feel like they end up rich.
They don't die is the main thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think when I was little, I was so focused on like that kind of chase thing because they're trying to get the girl, but they're also trying to get away from the mob the whole time. I don't know what the right word is. Mob, mafia, gangster. I don't know. Like that kind of
the friends of Italian opera.
Yeah, like the baddies of the film. They're constantly like they're in disguise, and so they're trying to be in disguise for these like mobsters to you know, like they're in the female jazz ensemble kind of thing, like the traveling thing, and they're keeping the disguise for the mobsters, but they also don't want to be in disguise because they want Marilyn to be interested in them. I don't know, honestly, I think it works out the best for Jack Lemmon's character because he like there's this I don't want to spoil it, but he just he ends up happily married.
One of the best final lines in a movie in history. People people know, right? Like, what percentage of our audience? I'm the worst for spoiling stuff.
I mean, if you've made it this far, I feel like you probably have seen the film. So, like, I mean, without giving it away, he gets happily married to this really wealthy man for being himself, like, taking off his wig and be like, I'm a man! And
nobody's perfect.
Oh, nobody's perfect. Oh, it's just brilliant. It's brilliant.
It's so funny. Everywhere they could put some comedy, they put some comedy. Like, even like the bellhop that's showing them to the room.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's wearing like this giant key ring around his neck and hitting on Tony Curtis the whole time. That's so it's so funny. Or like when they first show up, I'm just looking at my notes here. There's a moment where like, I guess there's when they show up in Florida and that row of old millionaires is just sitting out in the porch and they're all raising their hats. It's such a funny sight gag. When Tony Curtis is feeling like he's like inferior, or like, Marilyn would never go for him, he has this line that it's like, oh, you're probably looking for like someone who, like Johnny Weissmuller, who's like the macho man of the day. Like, he's the guy that played Tarzan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so when he says Johnny Weissmuller, he's talking like big, beefy guy.
And she's like, no, I just love saxophone. Like, literally, like, describes him.
Yeah, or just like soft boys with glasses because they read.
Yeah, like, oh my God.
But it's like 1950s male gaze versus female gaze stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I saw, I won't name the comedian, but I saw somebody do a joke where the setup was like, the way we all agree The Rock is the most attractive man in the world. It was like,
I don't know if I agree with that.
And all the women in the audience were like, no. And suddenly this guy was like, wait, women aren't attracted to large, muscular beefheads? Like,
yeah.
Like, it was such a funny, like, learning moment.
That's really funny. Was that like at an open mic or something?
That was Black Sheep a while.
Black Sheep, okay.
It was, yeah, I'll leave him unnamed.
Okay, that's
to be
okay.
fair to him. But like in that moment, I just thought, this person just learned the difference between the male gaze and the female gaze.
Yeah, no, so like, I'm bi, so I kind of like, I deal with the male gaze and the female gaze and the balance of that like every day with things. And like, it is weird how like the female gaze is just, it's completely different, than the male one. But at the same time, the male gaze that we all kind of think of is also different from the reality as well. So I don't know. I think with this movie as well, like as a kid and it being from the 50s, it was sort of my first time seeing a film from that time that had anything to do with like LGBT themes. And I mean, it is still very kind of, for the time. It's like, because, I mean, Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis are dressed in disguise as women, and every single time they kind of grapple with, like, a man hitting on them, or the fact that Marilyn wouldn't be interested in them if they're a woman kind of thing, So it's still showing, like, straight, like heterosexual themes as like the main accepted thing, but they're still playing around with like, look at these two men look at them disguised as like their best version of what a woman is. And it is experimenting with that female gaze and male gaze thing of like they're experiencing for the first time being hit on by men unwantingly, like they don't want to be hit on, and they're experiencing what the women of that time experienced, where they're like, oh my God, I'm being harassed and I can't even tell 100%. This person to fuck off because I'm a woman, and I can't tell them to,
with that moment in the elevator when the gangster goes, what room you staying in, and he goes, none of your business, and he just looks at her key and says 414, I'll be in touch.
So scary. It's like,
fucking hell.
Yeah, like they deal with like, especially at that time, like how the women were kind of seen as like objectified and everything. And like everyone in Hollywood is gay. So at that time, I'm sure it was the same as well, but obviously like probably more closeted, even though probably on set, everyone probably knew. And so it's just fun. It's just a really fun movie to see. I don't know. That was really stupid, like last year. I'm like, it's a really fun movie to see.
No, it's That's perfect. That's perfect. I think we're at like an hour 10.
Oh, nice.
Do you feel we've discussed Some Like It Hot adequately?
I do.
Have you sold it to an audience?
I think I have. I mean, how do you feel? Because you talk about films all the time. Like, do you think we've given it a good analysis, or?
I think so. I think it's like every time I watch a movie from this era, I'm like reminded of how I shouldn't be surprised, but I invariably I'm like just like they were so technically amazing with what they did. You know, like they're so you've got this impression of cinema being rudimentary and getting better over time or whatever, and it's just like no, there's some stuff in this that's like there's a moment where Jack Lemmon looks in a compact mirror, and the way they've like rear projected the shot of all the gangsters like onto that, like or like they did it in post or something so that you can see them crystal clear behind in that reflection. Like, that's a bit of visual effects stuff that's like I don't know how they I mean I have an idea how you'd go about doing it back then, but like it's so amazing. The car chase where they like pull a lever and the roof slides away and all the guns are in the thing, like people were just having fun even then, you know, like it's like I don't know, we think we're so sophisticated, but they were doing it then too. People were fun. Yeah. People were fun back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like nowadays it's like people with their big budgets and everything, they'll do these amazing kind of over the top, distracting special effects or whatever that don't really need to be there, but are amazing in themselves just for existing. Like, it is cool, like in Marvel films and stuff. But I think like Some Like It Hot and all those other movies of the time are so story focused, and that's really what I love to see, you know what I mean? Like for the writing and technical.
I was looking at sorry to cut
No, you're good. No, I was done.
But even the moment where like, do you think that was Marilyn Monroe riding down the pier on that bicycle? Like when she's racing down to the yacht at the end, I didn't pause it, and even with my big TV I was just like, I
doubt it.
What's the set of the shoulders? You know, just looking for...
Yeah, no, I doubt that she did her own stunts just because she was such a phenomenon. I doubt that they would... You know, they probably spent...
I'd love to zoom in and see the size of the dude.
Yeah, like they probably spent most of their money on the actors, like getting her to do it, you know?
Yeah. So Billy Wilder has a bunch of other films. I'm going to list some of them for you, and like I'm sure you've heard of them. Like I'm going to list out like the ones that I know to be his like standout ones. Okay. That people seem to know, and you can tell me if you've seen any of them. And this is not a movie trivia test or whatever, but like I've seen a bunch of them. I recommend them if you ever feel like it. But I recently watched, so like I love The Fortune Cookie, which is like it's again Jack Lemmon. He's a camera operator for the NFL. Ooh. I don't know if they were calling them the NFL in 1970.
They probably were.
1966.
They probably were.
And they might have changed the name of it because I don't know, they weren't licensed to use it or something, but some version of it. And a football player tackles him or just plows into him, and he pretends to have whiplash. And his cousin is like Walter Matthau, and he's just this snake of a lawyer, and he's just like he can't even move, like we're suing you for everything. And it's all about like the lawsuit to try and like to set themselves up for life, and like Jack doesn't want to do it, and
that's pure
like,
entertainment.
The football player's a sweetheart, and he feels so guilty, and he's drinking himself into the grave for hurting his friend. That's
brilliant.
It's so funny.
That's actually, I really think it's worth
so
watching. Genius. Actually, I want to watch that because that's so simple, but that's so dramatic. Like that would be such a good film. I want to see that.
That's called The Fortune Cookie.
Nice.
I love it. I know Irma la Douche is really regarded. I have never seen it. The Apartment is again Jack Lemmon. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I've heard of it. I don't quite know what it's about, even though I guess it's about an apartment.
Okay, so it's again a case of like, you think of everybody as being like, well, there was a Hays Code and everybody had to be respectable and nobody was talking about anything and everybody was like really like civil human beings. Jack Lemmon is a low-level executive in I think an advertising company.
Ooh.
And all of the top tier executives come to him for his spare key so they can take their mistresses to his house.
Oh God.
Ew. So he's basically got a guy. He's like a guy who just like has a spare room and he's trying to like.
That's so weird.
Deal with the work pressure of his boss going, you'll let me borrow that key tonight, right? And it's like, funny. It is a funny film. Maybe I'm selling the gross
Yeah,
end
it
of
sounds really
but
horrible, like really dark or something when you're talking about it. But if it's a comedy, like, I'm
it
sure
is
it's
a comedy.
great.
It seriously has a dark moment. There is a Manhattan insurance clerk tries to rise in his company by letting executives use his apartment for trysts.
Oof.
But complications and a romance of his own ensue. Does that sound nicer than the way I sold
I
it?
guess, I mean, it's just, I think comedy is so married with like drama. Like, it's literally the exact same thing. I don't know what makes, like, comedy is drama, apparently. Like, the actors, like, do it as if it's a drama, but then it's, I don't know. So the way you describe that story, it makes sense that it would sound so dark.
It does. There's funny moments in it. There's beautiful performances in it. Jack Lemmon's great as well. It's really endearing. It's not some Like It Hot. There's definitely, like, by the end of it, it's like kind of harrowing.
Okay.
Just to be completely upfront. Like,
Oof.
but I think the thing is that in my head, and like Sabrina is like a famous rom-com. In my head, I have all of these in my head as Billy Wilder films, just goofy, light comedies with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon.
Is Sabrina with Audrey Hepburn?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I've seen that one.
I think they remade it with Harrison Ford in the 90s.
Oof.
Yeah, Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah, I've seen that one. I'm not sure I love Humphrey Bogart, though. Especially because he
fair.
didn't really treat Audrey Hepburn very well. Like, he was like this older guy, by that time, and he didn't really respect her. He was like, who is this young?
Oh.
And he just wasn't very nice to her on set, I guess. Like, I don't know. So
Yeah, there's no call for being shitty.
yeah, so like when I watch that film, that's all I can think about, really.
And you have that with Singing in the Rain as well.
Wait, really?
Is that like...
Wait, what
yeah,
happened in Sing in the Rain? That's one of my favorite films.
Give me a minute.
Uh-oh.
Is it Shirley MacLaine?
No, it's the woman, Star Wars lady. What's her name? Her mom was in it.
Debbie Reynolds.
Yeah, Debbie Reynolds.
Debbie
Yes.
Reynolds,
I fucking love Debbie Reynolds.
So apparently Gene Kelly was kind of a
Are you
dickhead.
serious?
Yeah, he was like the way the story is told, and like I don't know, maybe this is me
Projecting. I'm just kidding.
be
I'm joking. Sorry. I make jokes sometimes.
I feel like by the time I'm seeing Debbie Reynolds go, oh, I didn't like it, I didn't enjoy it, he was overbearing, he didn't like the fact that I was learning to dance and wasn't a great dancer.
Oh,
and,
he was such a
like,
great dancer.
Sure, but if you're dancing with him for 11 hours a day and he's saying, would you get the fucking steps right? Why are we wasting our time with this asshole?
Oh, no.
Like, come on, we're here, come get it. Like, I don't know that that's what he was
I'm sure it was.
But I do feel that by the time we're getting the like the polite, this is the 10% of what I'm willing to say to you about how annoying this, or how kind of like tense this process was. Yeah. And I think when they kiss at one point, it was like, he's 20 years older than her, and no one told her she was going to stick his tongue down her throat, and she was like, what the fuck is this?
Poor thing.
So sorry to ruin Singing in the Rain for you.
I mean, like, I don't know, I think so. Debbie Reynolds was like such a warrior. Like, her life is insane. Like, if anyone listening to this wants to look her up, her life is actually insane. Like, I think she was stolen from, like, to the point of being homeless twice in her life with her kids, and she just made all her money back and like kept putting on show after show. Like, she's a real performer and talent, and like Gene Kelly is like a genius dancer and actor as well, but like he does give off those vibes of like, I'm the best and blah blah. And like I think like, Bob Fosse and all those kind of Broadway real performer, dancer, kind of choreographer people really would be like, you have to get this 100% right. It's you have to do it.
Not necessarily any time for anything that isn't perfect.
I mean,
just let's go.
And that film is perfect. It's perfect.
I mean, I love it. So what did we say? Fortune Cookie, Some Like It Hot, The Apartment, The 7-Year Itch. Like that's a classic Marilyn.
Classic.
Sunset Boulevard.
Classic.
Now we're into
Holy
like classic
shit!
film
I didn't
noir.
know Billy Wilder did that.
Billy Wilder. The year after that, Ace in the Hole with Kirk Douglas, which is a movie we watched recently enough. And I went in thinking this was going to be a light comedy, and it starts that way. It's so funny, and like he's such a weird, like cartoonishly like evil journalist. He's like, oh, I'll make the story sell. Like it's, you know, fast talk, high trousers, like that era of movies.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, it is so dark.
Really?
I was just like, wow, that is not what I expect. This is not the way I expected this movie to go. It's amazing. Like the final shot in that movie is beautiful. Like I took that film and like made a gif of it and was just like, I can't believe that's the final shot. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Double Indemnity is Billy Wilder as well, and I'm skipping over.
Yeah,
a bunch
how
of
many
other
movies
things,
did he
but it's
make?
just,
like,
he's got, I think there's about 27.
wow.
There's 27 listed on IMDb, and so many of them are Five Graves to Cairo, Double Indemnity, The Lost Weekends, Death Mills, The Empire Waltz, A Foreign Affair, Sunset Boulevard, Ace in the Hole, Stalag 17. You know A Foreign Affair?
I think so. That
was a big
yeah,
reaction.
that name definitely like hit me. I'm
one.
like, I know that.
In occupied Berlin, an army captain is torn between an ex-Nazi cafe singer and the U.S. Congresswoman investigating her bar.
I feel like I've
Jean
seen
Arthur,
that.
Marlene Dietrich.
I feel like I have seen that. I can't remember
like,
though.
This guy's filmography is fantastic.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like the swing from comedy to drama, it's
Honestly, I think Sunset Boulevard is one of those films that I watched once in my life and I still remember it like completely. It just completely like it gave me like this visceral feeling. And it's so good.
It's so intense.
It's so intense.
Like I was unaware that they've made a musical.
Did they?
Hold on.
I mean,
think that's on the West End. I'm suddenly like, maybe it's just a drama, and I'm making
if I'm remembering right, that's the one, because I really have only seen it once, and so I might be mixing it up. But it's like a movie star from silent films is like aging, and she has this man staying with her, like this young man that she's sort of not obsessed with, but kind of, and like she's watching her films, and
she's kind of infatuated with him because he's playing like he's starstruck because he wants at her
riches and
her
stuff,
home and her money and her land, and she's so used to being adored that as she ages, she's like really happy to have someone around that's like fawning over her.
Yeah, I clearly need to watch it again because I remember the last scene, and I remember it gave me such a reaction because it's not what you're expecting, you know? Because isn't it like, you can cut this out if this, like, because this is a spoiler, but it's him in the pool, right? Like he just, I think
they even open with that, you know, you don't realize that he's the body in the pool until the very end of it.
Yeah, no, I need to watch that again. I really do. Because for some reason, I always forget endings of films and TV shows. Because I think my body just is like, I want to be able to watch it again. So I can't remember like what happens at the end. I can't remember spoilers for myself.
So there is a musical, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard, currently starring Nicole Scherzinger.
Oh, that's awesome. I need to see that.
Next trip over to London, away off with you.
That actually would be awesome.
So anything coming up you wanna plug?
I mean, I'm editing the season 3 of my podcast Bimbo Plaza at the moment, and that's basically it. That's basically all I want to plug, because I have stand-up comedy shows possibly coming up, but they're just so sporadic and like last minute in a way. Like I don't have any planned until after Christmas right now, but I probably will like be on stage before then, so I don't know.
So keep your eyes peeled in Dublin comedy for Madeleine
Yeah,
Munford.
also I'm going to Glasgow Comedy Festival in March, so that's actually that's exciting. It's a four-hander show called Comediocre. So yeah.
Is it like a play, or is it like stand-up?
It's stand-up. So there's 4 stand-ups, and we're all like, obviously it's like different sets, but our one show is Comediocre. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's just the way you said four-hander. I was like a play.
No, that'd be cool.
Do you plug Instagram? You trying to get comedy following there?
Sure.
Or no?
It's Token Gingy. It is public. I don't like, when I'm on stage, I never like plug myself or even say my name, but I probably should, because that's the name of the game or whatever. Yeah.
The amount of comics I've seen, just like, especially in Edinburgh as well, it's just like, you know, follow me this, and then they'll just go out handing out business cards as well, you know. It's just like, follow this, like, here's a QR code, give me the follow.
I just honestly, I think there's something really like quote unquote brand loyal if someone in the audience is like, wow, she was so fucking good, I'm gonna find her, and then they go to the effort of finding me, without me saying it.
Organic traffic.
Yeah, like organic. It's like, I mean, it's not organic because I'm on stage and so I'm like selling myself in some way, or in Edinburgh you do spots so that you can say at the end like, I've got this show, come see my show. But you don't say that on stage necessarily. You just flyer at the door when they leave. It's like a little insider tip.
For it, though.
Insider tip.
Flyering at the door and then leaving.
Yeah. Flyer at the door as they're leaving, and don't because I've seen too many comedians bomb and then at the end they'll go, follow me on Instagram, go to my show. It's like no, now I'm fully gonna avoid doing that. And it like, you know, it actually makes your show look bad if you kind of do that. And I think a lot of people do know that actually, so it's not like I'm kind of talking behind anyone's back, but
I always think, or I don't know, I'm the worst for it as well. As much as I'm like pushing the branding a bag of cats, or you know, even the Endless Stream podcast, it's like there's part of me that's like, I'm on stage, I've got 5 minutes to do whatever. Yeah. I don't want to give over the last 20 seconds to going, anyway, find me on here. I'm trying to make a joke work.
Yeah, I mean, if they're your people, they'll go to the effort of finding you, and then once they go to that effort, they're never gonna unfollow you. You know, because they're like, this is my person, I relate to this, I want to see their stuff, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, like the pure comedy art form and integrity of @TokenGingy on Instagram. Follow @TokenGingy on Instagram.
Oh god. All that to say, follow me.